All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got some juice here in the den at FOX5 Studios today. It's my honor to have returning here to Sound Off Sports, the legendary Mike Tice, former head coach. Mike, you're you're still an intimidating dude. I'm just gonna say it. I perk up when I'm around you, and I've met a lot of people, but it's an NFL head coach quality, right? Is that what it is?
Well, as a former player, I was a big dude, and as a head coach, I was an even bigger dude. So, it's tough. It's tough to buy clothes, especially when you're overweight like I am. But it is what it is.
Nah, you look good. Listen, a lot of people, so you played quarterback in college, but a ton of years in the NFL playing tight end. That transition for you, what was that like, going from quarterback to tight end?
Quite frankly, I kind of cheated the process a little bit. Back in '81, when I was a rookie, there was no off-season program.
Yeah.
I went to a mini camp as a free agent quarterback out of Maryland.
Right.
I couldn't reach. I had an injury, and I wasn't really a quarterback. I handed off the ball. And so I went back, and my brother was a tight end at Maryland. He played with Boomer. And I started working out as a tight end the entire summer. So when I came back to camp, I knew I couldn't play quarterback. Jack Patera, the great coach, God rest his soul, he said, "Son, you go home and you move to tight end." I said, "Oh, I've never played tight end before." But I worked out as tight end for the 3 months previous. So I made the team in 1981.
It's amazing, though. From 81 to 95, Seattle, Washington, Minnesota, you're playing. That's a long career to be making a transition. We've seen it. Julian Edelman was a quarterback in college. He then becomes a wide receiver. We see it happen, even guys like Antoine Randall L. and stuff. So it happens. But I think it's so crazy to conceptualize the idea that you're doing that, and then you're just going to have this tremendous, NFL career where you can sustain all these years learning a new position. That's pretty crazy.
Well, it like everything in life, it starts with work ethic, and then it starts with being blessed to be around good coaches, and coaches that had the patience to let me develop and show me how to play the position. And that's how I was successful and able to play for 14 years.
It's crazy. 14 years, I'm bad at math, but that's a long time. Most players, it's 2-3 years in the NFL. But immediately after you're done, you join the Vikings staff as a tight end coach, and then you have this terrific, career as O-line coach, offensive coordinator, of course, head coach of the Vikings. When we see the coaching cycle that just occurred here, you just told me you had a birthday. The Raiders just hired Pete Carroll, a guy who's an Energizer bunny.
Yep.
You got to love this guy's attitude. It's infectious. He's done it. He's won at USC. He's won a Super Bowl. He's lost a Super Bowl. The guy knows what he's doing, but he's going to be turning 74 while he's coaching.
74 in September, right in the beginning of the season. He'll be the oldest head coach in the history of the nation.
Is it madness, or what do you think? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What's Mike Tice's feeling?
You know what? Living here in town and taking a step back and watching the process and looking at where the Raiders are at right now, I think it's a good move. I think you got a veteran guy that's going to bring in some calm, and he's already proven he can bring in some great assistant coaches. But, bringing Chip Kelly in is a coup. I mean, Chip was a head coach of the 49ers, a head coach of the Eagles, a head coach of UCLA, very prominent name in the business, and I think that's a great hire.
$6 million a year. He's going to become the highest paid offensive coordinator. I mean, he obviously just came off a great year, winning the national championship with Ohio State University, quarterbacks coach and coordinator. But I mean, to have a guy like that, $6 million for a coordinator, things have changed a little bit, right?
Yeah, things have changed a lot of bit. I'm going to tell you, it wasn't too recently I was a coordinator in the league, and I wasn't close to $6 million. So.
Is that too much for a guy like Chip Kelly? I mean, listen, when he was a head coach, he didn't do great with the 49ers. With the Eagles, he knew his stuff. But to me, tell me if I'm wrong, I think the move, a lot of this, is it's almost like his acumen as an offensive mind, scoring 35 points per game. Even, at Ohio State, it's cool to do that. We saw it with the Eagles, with Oregon and all that stuff. To me, is it quarterback proof? Is it almost like, listen, we might not be getting our quarterback, so we got a guy who can call some plays up and put some points on the board even if we don't have our franchise QB?
Well, he was one of the first ones in the NFL to bring that RPO style of offense in, which is going to be really helpful to a team like the Raiders who are still building in some areas, and offensive line has not been, a stalwart of theirs lately. So I think it's going to be a good system. It's the way football is being played now, and football is fast. There's a lot of speed on the field, And, those plays that take forever to develop, just look at the Vikings in the playoffs. They held the ball a lot. They had deep running routes. They took a lot of sacks. They had some turnovers. And that style of play works when you're the superior team, but when you're not the superior team, you need some help.
So let's speak about the Vikings for a second. Obviously, an organization you know a ton about, playing for them, coaching for them, all that stuff. When you have a season like they had, and Sam Darnold's playing MVP-type football the whole year, but then when it comes down to the plays you need to make, the games you need to win, he's not able to convert. If you're, running that team, are you keeping him? Are you moving on to J.J. McCarthy? What do you do if you're running the Vikings right now?
Well, fortunately, I'm not running the Vikings, so I don't have that decision to make. But the one thing I can tell you is, Sam had a great season. If there's a way financially to keep them both, then that would be great. But I think there's going to be some money out there for a guy like Sam Darnold. Yeah, he imploded at the end, as did the defense. And so, but the team goes as the quarterback goes. He was not brilliant the last couple of weeks. And and I've heard a lot of friends still in Minnesota, same old Sam Darnold. And unfortunately, he was the same old Sam Darnold at the end of the season. What do? If you financially can keep them both, it would be great for the organization to let the young kid grow. But if not, I think you got to move on with the draft pick.
But as a former coach who's evaluating players, evaluating talent, is he just a guy who does not have that makeup to be the guy to win that game? Like, I mean, do you have to almost hedge your bets and just kind of understand, does somebody have that juice or doesn't have it? Because it's just kind of what it is. I mean, you can make a lot of money in the NFL being a Sam Darnold and being great for 14, 15 weeks. But if you can't win the big game, can you delineate that? Can you figure that out just from having intuition?
Well, the problem with Sam, he had a great season, and as I said, he didn't do so well at the end, but that's been his history. What he showed at the end has been his history.
Right.
So now it's going to be hard, I think. It's going to be hard for the Vikings to say, no, let's keep him here. He had a couple bad games, but you still have that taste of the same film of him you were watching in his last couple of stops.
Right.
So it didn't change.
O'Connell looked frustrated with some of those throws he wasn't making.
It was like he got hit. When he got hit, it looked like everything was moving differently for him.
And is it just like when you're watching a Jaden Daniels and he's a rookie, and just the poise, the calm, is it just something like you have it or you don't have it? There's no way to figure this out, and sometimes you can't even figure it out in the draft process, but then you see a guy like Jaden Daniels, he can do it. I mean, he's
special. There's a difference. Some people are born differently than others.
But he is.
He's a very special player, and they don't come along a lot. And great for the Commanders to get that pick, to make the right decision. And it's going to be fun for those people that are on that coaching staff and who are in that city to follow his career. So he's special, though. Sam Darnold is not Daniels.
Okay, so back to this coaching carousel. I'm curious what you think here, because there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. I have a question for you when it comes to a guy like Mike Tomlin, okay? Mike Tomlin, a guy who hasn't won a playoff game in 8 years, but he's never had a losing season. And fans, if you talk to Pittsburgh Steelers fans, like my producer here, James Edward Berrickman IV, Yinzers, they're upset. They're upset. They're fed up because they want something new. They want to change after 8 years. This is a guy who won a Super Bowl. He's never had a losing season. My question is, are fans like James Edward Berrickman IV, these Yinzers, are they not going to realize how good they had it if they try to ship off a guy like Mike Tomlin? What do you have this special knowledge, not a lot of guys who are head coaches in the NFL. What do you do when you have a guy who clearly knows football, but there's not a lot of good stuff happening in the past 8 seasons?
Well, I look back at my time with Lovie Smith in Chicago, and I think when the Chicago Bears made the decision to move on from Lovie Smith, it was unfortunate for the organization because they still haven't recovered. I'm not going to say that would be the same for the Pittsburgh Steelers I'm a very big fan of Mike Tomlin, so you're asking the wrong guy.
I think a lot of
people are. You're asking the wrong guy the wrong question because I'm going to defend him. I think he's done a great job. He's built his program. You don't see a lot of newspaper stuff. You don't see the players, disrespecting the brand, if you will. And yeah, can you get over the hump? But it all comes back to what we were just talking about. It all comes back to quarterback play. I didn't see championship-style quarterback play out of that position by Russell. So we want to blame it on Mike Tomlin, but to get to that next hump, that next step, it's got to be the quarterback. And that's why a lot of the conversation that's going on about the game, I know we're going to talk about the game briefly, but the game coming up Sunday is, can Jalen Hurts, make enough plays to beat the Chiefs? I mean, that's a conversation that I'm hearing in my circles.
See, and that's the thing, is that knowing the uniqueness of being a head coach, sometimes it's all about your perspective. That's why, to me, I look at the Mike Tomlin stuff. I'm like, look at how much good he's doing, putting them in a position to win with little stuff. But it's all about how you frame it. So if you had to speak to a fan who's going crazy, like, how do we still have this guy? Blah, blah. Meanwhile, who are you going to get that's better than Mike Tomlin?
Right. Bring in one of these 38-year-old, 36-year-old hotshots that know stats and the quarterback whisperers, or are you going to bring in, Lovie Smith? Well, Lovie's, had his run, so that run's not happening again.
Well, it's puzzling to me. So then when you see like a Ben Johnson, right, who's the belle of the ball, everybody's treating this guy like he's Halle Berry, in a room, and it's all single guys, right? Everybody wants this Ben Johnson. Well, he's a great offensive coordinator, a lot of clever plays, putting points up on the board, a lot of good stuff. But when you see a guy like that, there's rumors out there that he might not be a good leader. He might not be the guy who can command a room. Well, are you worried about stuff like that?
Well, yes. And part of that problem stems from being one-sided, being on one side of the football. You haven't dealt with the special team players. You haven't dealt with the defense. And now all of a sudden you have to deal with and lead two other parts of the team that are very important to you to, win games.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean, some guys can do it and some guys can't do it. The two Raider head coaches ago, great coordinator, came from the system in New England.
Right, McDaniel.
But has proven that he's not able to lead the men down the path to winning, to victory. The only thing that matters is winning.
So tell us what that is. What is the difference? Because everybody, like Chip Kelly, is a guy, all these people, to me, it's like you almost need it beaten out of you. You have the pride. It's in order, the prerequisite to even be a coach in the NFL is you got to believe in yourself enough that you can lead men, that you should be a head coach. So I think that's a prerequisite. The question, though, is not every single person is meant to be a head coach. Even you could be a Vic Fangio, genius defensive mind. Look what he's done to transform this Eagles team. I don't know if he's supposed to be a head coach. He might be more of a detail-oriented guy, defensive side of the ball. So what is that quality? If you were going to tell us the attribute, what's the thing that you need, that Ben Johnson's going to need to know in order to be successful as a head coach?
One of the things that's very important, and I know this for a fact, is consistency in your message. Making sure you're consistent, that you're not up and down. Something doesn't go right the way you've sold it to the team.
Right.
Supposedly they've bought into this point, and now something doesn't go right. How are you going to handle that adversity as a head coach? Is your message all of a sudden going to change the next meeting you have? Or is there going to be a consistent message?
Right.
And I think that's very, very important.
And that's what I love about Tomlin. Even when you were walking in here, we got to give a shout out to your genius son, Nate Tice, doing great stuff right now. You were speaking so highly of Nate Burleson, one of your guys, because it's like that's a prerequisite, a quality of all coaches. I know, stemming back from Coach John Valori for me in high school, like, it's guys who you're a teacher and educator first, and you care about these guys like they're your son. The way you're talking about Nate Burleson, it's like he's your family.
He is part of my family. I mean, Nate Burleson is obviously a very talented young man. We drafted him with the Minnesota Vikings out of UNR. Not a big program, but he caught a lot of passes in that program. I want to say over 130 passes in one season. I remember going to Randy Moss and saying, "What do you think about this kid? What's your opinion?" He said he's got 132 catches. I'm getting old. And he said, it doesn't matter if it's high school small college or the NFL, 132 catches is 132 catches. Right. And now we bring Nate Burleson in, and just the consistency, how he carries himself, how he deals with people in the locker room. Those are the kind of guys you're blessed with having on your team and in your program.
So you identified that in like a pre-draft process. Yes. You could tell from an interview.
Yes.
What is it?
Well, it's how they answer questions that sometimes are tough questions. How they answer questions that maybe they don't really want to hear, and maybe
like give me an
maybe you don't sugarcoat it.
Like, give me an example. Let's role play. Make pretend I'm Nate Burleson and ask me a question.
Well, the first thing you want to do is, if the guy has had any kind of history of issues, whether it's a DUI or underage drinking in college or anything, you want to approach that, and you want to see if the person's going to be, the young man's going to be defensive, or is the young man going to say, I'm a knucklehead. You're hoping for the knucklehead answer. I'm a knucklehead. I screwed up. Taking ownership and growing up. And
okay, what about
taking ownership and growing up? X's and O's are very important. You want to hire intelligent football players. They might not be great in math. They might not be, which I'm not. They might not be great in chemistry, which I wasn't.
Neither.
But they can problem solve. They can understand a game plan. They can understand adjustments, and that's why I said problem solve, because there's a lot of adjustments in a game plan as the play progresses and in the course of the game when there are adjustments made on the sideline. You have to have guys that have that are cerebral enough to make those adjustments.
That's an important thing. Okay, now I'm sure you and Nate spoke about this. It's something that everybody's talking about when it comes to the coaching cycle. Liam Cohen and this whole press conference, Duval, remember that whole thing he did?
Yeah.
Look at your face. What? All right, I'm already scared looking at you. Here's what I'm trying to say. How is that dude going to command a room? How is people on social media saying, how this guy couldn't even motivate me to make a sandwich? That's what people are saying on social media. If I'm a billionaire, let's just say I won the lottery tomorrow and I buy the Jags from Shad Khan, right? And my first move is I'm gonna hire Mike Tice as my right-hand man to be my eyes and ears, my advisor. You're my Robert Duvall. You're my consigliere, okay, for The Godfather. Are you telling me you're gonna hire Liam Cohen with this kind of demeanor? Like, have we just gone off the? Are we in cuckoo land right now in terms of what an NFL head coach should look like? Like, to me, I grew up when you were coaching. I grew up when the Eagles, Jim Johnson, defensive coordinator, guys who have, I got to almost say an expletive. You're going to crap your pants around some of these guys. It's a totally different mindset mentality. And now you got a guy who looks like he could be a barista at a coffee shop making you a matcha latte, and he's the answer for the Jags? Like, tell me what's going on. You got Doug Peterson, a guy who won a Super Bowl, and now you're going to go that's the answer. What's going on, Mike?
Well, it's going back to these guys, these young coaches that are quarterback guys and that have dealt with quarterbacks and can develop a young quarterback. That's we early on we talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I said a Badger. My son's a Badger. Russell Wilson, the quarterback,
yes,
wasn't great. Okay, I didn't say great, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
And so now we have to understand that this league evolves around the quarterback. So now these teams are bringing in these quarterback whisperers, if you will. I hear it called that.
Yeah.
And this guy is one of those. And so this I shouldn't call him a guy. This Liam Cohen is one of those. And he's a brainiac kind of guy. He worked at Brown. He worked. I think he went to UMass, and he's
there.
Very cerebral. And so a lot of players appreciate the cerebralness, and until, like I said, it hits the wall and adjustments got to be made, and let's see what happens.
So it's not a good look. When you saw that press conference, I mean, can you read into a press conference, or should we not be doing it?
He was in his defense. I mean, he's probably excited. He's probably just reaching out to the regular fandom And, he wasn't necessarily talking to his team at that point.
But you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. There's a feeling.
I know what you're saying.
There's a feeling.
But, the times have changed, man. Kids learn differently. And, I look at my 35-year-old son, who we've talked about a couple times, Nate, and I look at my daughter, 37. I look at my nieces and nephews from my sister's kids, and kids are different, man. Kids like it a little softer. They don't like that getting called out stuff anymore.
But I don't know if that wins you Super Bowls. I really don't.
Well, you know what? We'll find out, right? It certainly hasn't won any for the Dolphins. Well, if you want to add another guy to that list, add him.
Mike McDaniel wearing the off-white Nikes.
And the pants that are up to his calves and the whole thing.
So let's talk about this Super Bowl, because I think there's interesting things happening. So I'm curious. So let's go back to that narrative. I win the lottery. I'm a billionaire, and I hire you as my consigliere, right? Well, there's a lot of different ways to construct a coaching staff, right? I think you see the Eagles, where Nick Sirianni really is not a detail guy. He's the guy who's just kind of like a figurehead, kind of, I don't know exactly what he's doing. You got Kellen Moore calling plays for the offense. You got Vic Fangio calling plays on defense. So he's kind of just a set the tone kind of guy. Dan Campbell in Detroit was a similar kind of thing, but in a very successful, sought after kind of fashion, a former tight end guy. Then you got the Chiefs, which I think is the optimal situation. You got Andy Reid, who knows definitely both sides of the ball, but of course he's an offensive mind. And then you got Steve Spagnuolo, who's a defensive genius and whiz, and they come together and work together. If you were advising me, what's the best way to construct a staff in the NFL? Is it to have a Dan Campbell, a rah-rah culture builder guy, what the Raiders were hoping to have in Antonio Pierce, a guy who clearly can't really do play calling, game management kind of stuff? Or is it better to really have a detail-oriented guy, maybe something the Bears are trying to do with Ben Johnson, somebody who really is about calling plays? How do you craft a happy medium? What would you do?
Well, you have to have good leaders in the room. So somebody on each side of the football and special teams has to lead men, groups of men, big groups of men. And you have to be able to answer criticism. You have to be able to carry on a conversation with the head coach and show him what you're going to do game plan-wise and what happens if this happens, and have the answers to those challenges. Not everybody can be a rah-rah guy. Not everybody could be like Dan Campbell and myself, big old retired tight ends that talk tough.
Right.
Not everybody can be like that, and not everybody is like that. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. There are a lot of spots that are going to be interesting. I look at, you talk about interesting spots. You look at, Marty's kid, Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
And he has been an NFL assistant since, I don't know, 1997.
What was the deal there?
Well, we all know what the deal is.
No, tell it. I don't know what the deal is.
Well,
the
deal is, Jerry wants to be the guy in charge, and he wants the team to be modeled from his image. And so it's nothing better to have a guy that's been in the building and understands how things operate there, and so you just promote him.
Outside
and
looking in,
probably saved them a bunch of money, too.
He wasn't calling the plays, Schottenheimer. He was the guy he's working under gets shipped off. So you're not even changing up the culture. You're not bringing in an injection of anything new. You just keep the same old guy. And if you had consistency in your career. You're going up through the ranks. You joined the Vikings staff. You were an assistant head coach and offensive guy with the Jags. Then you move up to tight ends, and there's trajectory. You're an offensive line coach with the Bears. You move up to OC with the Bears. So you're moving through the thing. This dude is doing lateral moves every other year to a different franchise, and this is who he's going to hire.
Well,
it's nuts.
My biggest problem with that hire, and it's not me doing the hiring, so it's not my business, is that if you're going to do that, then you should have just kept Mike.
Right?
Then you would have saved money, because you wouldn't have had to pay Mike and pay this guy.
It makes zero sense. Yeah. So let's break down this Super Bowl game, because obviously 2 years ago, it was neck and neck. Eagles, Chiefs. Hurts had a tremendous game. He makes one mistake the whole game with that fumble, but beyond that, they're going neck and neck, Mahomes and Hurts. He's making throws, dropping dimes to Dallas Goedert off the sideline. He had that huge passes in the end zone, great pass to A.J. Brown, to Devontae. He's doing a little bit of everything. And then, of course, there's that awful holding call on Bradbury, which probably shouldn't have been called. But it really could have gone either way. And then, for some reason, the defeat, losing in the Super Bowl on the biggest stage, it's crushing to an organization. And they had to kind of refine their footing. The Sirianni and Hurts don't have the same relationship. And now they finally got some juice, thanks to Saquon, the defensive line, the offensive line. When you're breaking down this game and trying to educate our audience on what's going to happen Super Bowl Sunday, what are the big things that we got to be thinking about and top of mind?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure if I'm correct because I didn't look, but I want to say that each of the playoff games has been won by the team that's won the turnover ratio.
Yes.
So first thing, it's got to start with, and both teams are plus. I think the Eagles are like plus 11 in turnover ratio. I think the Chiefs are like plus 6 or something like that. And so they win the turnover battle. But whoever loses the turnover battle in this game, in my opinion, will lose the game. All right, let's just say now let's go to stage 2. There are no turnovers.
Right.
Teams are just playing the game. They're pretty equal in a lot of areas. Defensively, they both play well, but they both have different styles. KC is blitz heavy, big time blitz heavy. And so we used to have a saying when we were rolling in Minnesota was, let them blitz. They're going to win by the blitz, they're going to die by the blitz, and we're going to burn them. So there could be some big gashing runs in the run game with this blitz from the Kansas City Chiefs. And is on the other side with the blitz against Hurts. Hurts is going to have an issue if he has to hold the ball. He's going to have an issue. They don't have that type of passing game. So this is going to be the only real advantage when I look through a couple of things that I saw, pretty equal all around, different styles. Kansas City's going to pass the game, pass the ball, have intermediate passing game in the zone. They're going to find the zone. They're going to use that as a run. But also, I know the way Andy is, Reid, if they're going to play soft and make sure they don't beat them down the field, then they're going to hand the football off. They're going to hand the football off to Pacheco. They're going to hand the football off to Kareem Hunt, and they're going to attack Philadelphia that way. It's like, okay, what do you give me? That's what we're going to play. We don't care. We're not worried about stats. We're worried about winning the football game. So it's a very interesting game. But there is one area that both teams have been okay at, not great at. It's the red zone scoring touchdowns. In this area, Philadelphia has a little bit of an edge, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs as well. So I'm interested to see who's going to convert and score touchdowns in the red zone and who's going to kick field goals. And to me, the turnovers, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, those are going to be the two big keys. These are both great defenses that are probably both a little susceptible to giving up a big play here and there because of the style of play that they play. But both excellent, as you said, both excellent coordinators on defense, both great mind on, of course, the Chiefs side offensively. And there's Kellen Moore, to me. He's being talked about for a head coaching job in New Orleans. I think he's grown up this year. He went from pass crazy in Dallas to now run crazy. And to me, that shows a maturity as a football coach. And I don't think you can put enough value on that because, if I was a betting man, I would think that the running back for Philadelphia has a really good chance to win the MVP in this football game.
I think they're going to live and die by Saquon. I found a stat when I was doing some research on you, which I loved. In 2002, your first season as a full-time head coach with the Vikings led the NFL in rushing for the first time ever in your first season. In 2002, Michael Bennett was the running back at that time. Was Matt Burke the center at that time too?
Yeah.
So to get that, to get that groove going where you almost know it's like being in a bar fight, right? No matter what you give us, even you got Chris Jones, you got George Karlaftis, we don't care. We're going to be able to run the ball down your throat. Does Philadelphia really need to feel that? And you think with Landon Dickerson, Juergens, that line, Becton moving from tackle to guard looking strong, Mailata, Lane Johnson, to me, punch him in the mouth and just let Saquon do his thing and let's set the tone running the ball.
Yes, and that's why it's an intriguing matchup. Very, very good point. And the problem which lies with the Chiefs in that regard is the Chiefs guys, Chris, all those big, good-looking dudes up front, and that secondary, they don't want to, get in there and hunker down in a 4-point stance and play the run. They want to rush the passer and pound their chest. And they hope Philadelphia throws the ball.
Right.
I think Philadelphia is going to try. I wouldn't be surprised to see them come out and run an option in this game, as part of their every series stuff, with the quarterback. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? And give them another blocker by letting the quarterback keep the ball some more, which they've been very good at this year.
Teach us something here. If Vic Fangio called you up this past week and said, hey, Mike, how the hell are we going to stop Travis Kelce as a former tight end? Tell us, what do you do to stop a guy like this? Because let's be frank, he looks a little bit more out of shape. He's not the same Travis Kelce maybe from the past 2 seasons, but still, I think a lot of it was purposeful. They didn't want him getting a lot of wear and tear throughout the season. They want him rising to the occasion in these playoff games. If Vic Fangio called you up and said, Mike, what should I do to scheme so we don't have Kelce dominating this game and just beating us? Like, how do we take him out of the game? Teach our audience. How do you take Travis Kelce out of the game? Is there any way to do that?
Well, not really, because if they play soft and say we're not gonna play you a lot of man and not let Worthy beat us deep, and we're not gonna let your speed kill us, then they're in trouble because they're gonna have a lot of holes in there where the Kansas City Chiefs are pretty smart about sitting in the hole, turning towards the quarterback, being friendly, and catching those zone passes, those hook routes in those zones. They'll just pick you apart. It's like playing against Tom Brady. You play against Tom Brady and you do that, he doesn't care. He doesn't care what he averages to throw. He's going to throw the ball all the way down the field. Learned it from experience. So you gotta play. Vic's got to play his share of man, but he's got to pick his spots. And those guys up front against a pretty, they've had some time to heal. But a couple of weeks ago, they're starting their inside guard at left tackle.
Yeah.
And so I didn't see the injury report I don't really check it till Thursdays because that's when it's real. I didn't see who's starting at left tackle, but someone's got to win an individual matchup up front for Philadelphia in order for them to be able to not put all of those guys in the pass rush and have to play man behind. And if they have to play a lot of man, they're going to be in trouble with all those crossing routes that the Chiefs do. Those guys getting a chance to catch and run the football down the field. Interesting.
2 wrinkles that I'm excited
about. I think
about.
Vic's in trouble.
Well, I think Jalen Carter's got to have a bigger game than Chris Jones. But the other thing that I love about the situation, this Zach Bond, you got to realize I'm 32, turning 33 Saturday. In all my years, I'm from South Jersey, Philadelphia Eagles fan, Cherry Hill. All my years, Jeremiah Trotter was the one linebacker we had who really was like Philadelphia never really believed too much in the linebacker position. It was more Lito Shepherd, having the corners, having safeties like Brian Dawkins, having the guys up front, right? So Zach Bond being a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, having a guy who can really rush the passer, defend the pass, punching out making turnovers, making plays. Like, he's a huge deal, I think, in trying to contain Kelce a little bit more because we haven't had strong linebacker play in a really long time. Andy Reid drafts Brandon Graham out of school, but, that's a guy who's rushing the quarterback. That's so to have a linebacker like that, I think is going to be a nice piece and something different for us.
Well, what has to happen, and this is as old as I am, 66, by the way, double your age, 66 on Groundhog's Day, a couple of days ago.
Happy birthday.
In big games,
yeah,
the great players got to make great plays. And a player like Bond and a player like Mahomes, a player like Kelce, a player like Hurts, a player like A.J. Brown, a player like Bach, they got to have great games. And if your great players don't play great, then you're going to start with a problem right there. That's going to cause a lot of problems. But you're just counting on as a coach that your big-time guys are going to step up and they're going to make the plays. They're not going to be the ones turning the football over. They're going to be the ones creating the turnovers, getting the sacks. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great game. I hope it's a great game.
What's your prediction? Do you?
I'm still really torn. Because my prediction is whoever wins the turnover battle is going to win the game, but I can't predict that. So I'm going to keep an eye on the over/under maybe and go in that direction because first of all, I have 3 coaches on the Kansas City Chiefs that are friends. And so it's hard to root against them.
Who? Nagy?
Andy Reid, Andy Heck, the offensive line coach, and he was drafted as a rookie in Seattle when I was there. We lockered next to each other. We worked together in Jacksonville. And then Dave Tobe, the special teams coach, and I worked together for Lovie Smith with the Bears. So I wish those guys luck every week. But now all of a sudden, as I'm not a football analyst, but I watch a lot of football. I think if the Philadelphia Eagles do not turn the football over, they have a very good chance to win this football.
Yeah, they have a great roster. Jeff Stoutland, as an offensive line guy, that's got to be the best offensive line coach in the NFL.
Done a wonderful job.
With the Eagles.
It doesn't matter. Just give me a new guy, and I'll take care of it. He's done a great job.
You lose Kelsey.
He's done a great job of developing talent. He's done a great job of having them play in sync. He's done a great job of putting a run game together for Kellen Moore to call. Because normally that's the offensive line coach's job is part of your resume is you're in charge of the run game. Because they all want to throw the ball. So, we got the passes. You go ahead and get over there with the runs.
I love it because it makes offensive line play sexy. You see, Juergens making his way down all these guys, Becton, they're going downfield like we used to see Kelsey and just, trucking guys and just opening up the lane. It's so beautiful to watch and see it. Mailata didn't even play football. This guy was a rugby player, 6'8", and Stoutland begs Howie Roseman to draft this guy. Now he's an all-pro.
Yeah, he's a good player.
It's like a special thing to witness. Now, tell me, this week, guys like Andy Reid, who are your boy, all that kind of stuff, a couple things. One, what is a coach able to sleep this week? Like, what does it look like when you're Super Bowl week ready and you're preparing for this game? Are you literally staying up to 2 a.m. every night, trying to see every little detail, or what do most guys do?
Well, first of all, I never coached in the Super Bowl, so I can't tell you exactly how, but I have come off a 2-week bye. So, I think all the preparation's really done before you head into Super Bowl week. From what I've been told, the work is done 2 weeks out, getting all the plays in, all the changes in the plays, making sure that you got in what you like, and if you don't like it, get rid of it. If you like it and it just needs a little more work, then put some more time into it. I'm talking about schemes, I'm talking about blitzes, I'm talking about runs, I'm talking about reverses, I'm talking about screens, those little tweaks, those little things you put in every week where the defense doesn't say, oh, they're in this formation, This is what they're going to run. Well, no, because we're going to be in that formation, we're going to run a play that we haven't run all year. So those type things I think are done already. So now it's just a matter of getting rest and eating good and getting healed up and getting ready to turn it out. And as coaches too, but you can't overthink things. You can't overthink things. You can't all of a sudden start putting new plays in 3 days before the game. I don't believe it works like that.
Does a guy like Andy Reid, he already beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, does he have more juice because he's playing a team that shipped him out and didn't appreciate an organization? Do you think it matters more to him or no?
I can't answer that question, but as a man, what do you think?
I think I want to use the F word.
Just as a man, what do you think?
I think so.
Oh, I do too.
I've
never asked him that question.
But it probably does.
It probably does.
Who has more pressure on them, the Chiefs or the Eagles?
I don't think the Chiefs have any pressure. They're playing. They're going to be loose, and that's the way Andy runs his ship.
Even for a three-peat,
they're going to be loose, and they're going to come to play. Again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's going to come down to who's going to hang on to the football, who's not going to turn it over, and or on defense, who's going to make a great play and create that turnover. It doesn't have to be a sloppy play to be a turnover. It could be a great play. A DB goes up over the top of a receiver and makes a great play.
I could see Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slay, any of those guys.
This guy is so prejudiced.
Hey, listen, it could be Trent McDuffie too. But, all right, I want to ask you something before we get into this great golf tournament you got going on. A lot of celebrities, a lot of past superstars going to be there. I want to ask you a couple last things. This is the thing that pisses me off more than anything in the NFL. And I'm not going to say referees, okay? 2 years ago, the Eagles, they're gelling. They're getting ready for the Super Bowl. You got Shane Steichen calling plays on the offensive side. You got Jonathan Gannon calling defensive plays on the defensive side of the football. What are these guys doing prior to the Super Bowl? They're on job interviews.
That's driving you crazy.
Shane Steichen's going on job interviews. Jonathan Gannon's going on job interviews. There is no way. I've worked in corporate America too long, Mike Tice. There's no way you can be prepped and primed to do your best job possible, putting 110% effort into one game to win, if you're also contending with becoming a head coach for the first time in your career and prioritizing that in your preparation. Why the hell can coaches go on job interviews before their team is eliminated? It makes zero sense. Can you fill me in on this? How is it possible that a coach can compartmentalize two things? I don't believe it.
Well, it's got to be tough. You know, the rules have been up and down and changed and this and that, when they can interview, when a playoff team, we talked about this before the show, can interview. It's really such a bad process. And there's no way, again, go back to your man, I'm a man, go back to, all right, think about your preparation, and if all of a sudden something tragic happens and pulls you away from, which has happened to me in the past, pulls you away from work for 2 whole days. Well, tell me about what happens if all of a sudden you have a granddaughter or you have a new baby in the house, and you're not there all the way. You can't mentally be in the same mode you have been all year, where you had your regiment and you have your what time you're doing this, and all of a sudden 2 days or even let's put 24, 30 hours on it. I don't know. Are the interviews on Zoom, or are they? You still have to prepare for the interview, so it's still taken away from your time. I think it's hard. I think it's very hard. So now, let's talk about the guy that
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I want to say screw Jonathan Gannon already, because I know we lost that Super Bowl because he was prioritizing the Arizona Cardinals. I know that for a fact. Now, Kellen Moore, I like this guy. He has shown maturity. This is a guy who in Dallas as an OC, throwing the ball, like Dak Prescott put up crazy numbers because it's all about throwing the ball, right? Well, finally, there's a little bit of synergy here between the run game, the pass game. We're a run-first team, baby. I love it. I love to see it. He's auditioning for the Saints job. I mean, it looks like and the Super Bowl's in New Orleans. So, I mean, it's a double whammy. And on top of it, the Saints are being investigated now for, nefarious things that they were overlooking with some other stuff in the city. So now you got this guy who looks like a Boy Scout, Kellen Moore, who they probably would like to see in this role because he's no Sean Payton. He's definitely more of a Boy Scout type. I mean,
Boy Scout.
I mean, maybe not Liam Cohen.
His running game is not Boy Scout type. His running game is physical.
All right, you gotta give him credit there. All I'm saying, he probably has a few Boy Scout medals and pins for running the game. But that's a negative to me. The fact that Nagy is staying in KC, the fact that Steve Spagnuolo is not looking for other jobs, having that to be rest assured, to have that is so key. You got Kellen Moore, who he's got to basically in a week, a couple days, he's gonna have to figure out a staff if he gets that job. So it's like you can't be just prepping for the Super. You can't be. It's literally impossible.
Yeah, it's tough. And by the way, that he's not putting together a staff next week. He's put that together. So
isn't that bad? So when you're getting ready for the Super Bowl, when you're a fan like me, Mike, I'm turning down parties. I'm not even, my birthday's the day before the Super Bowl. I'm not going to any Super Bowl party because you know what I got to do? Because I'm so invested. I'm losing my voice right now. I got to sit at home, watch this in a dark room neurotically, make sure I know my vantage point to the TV, the audio situation. I got to have my phone ready so I can talk to my dad about each and every play after it happens. Like, I can't enjoy this Super Bowl. We got to win. This is not about eating pizza and buffalo wings. We got to win this game. So Kellen Moore, to not be prioritizing this and to be prioritizing his future, it's selfish.
I know. So wow, maybe I won't look at the over-under. Maybe I'll just bet the Chiefs.
Am I getting too worked up here?
I'm only kidding. Well, you're obviously a big Eagles fan.
I want somebody who's all in. I'm sorry that I'm like.
The process is tough, and there's been a lot of criticism about the process all over the place, from coaches to management to owners, and so they got to work their way through it. And maybe this will come up If things don't work out for Philly, maybe this will come up as a distraction, and maybe it'll be handled differently.
Last question before we get into your tournament. You're being so generous with your time. Is it true that you think teams knocking on the door, the way that the Eagles, they were in that position 2 years ago, a lot of these guys, to me, when you look at a Jalen Hurts, he's serious as a heart attack, that dude. He barely smiles, right? Saquon Barkley, a guy who really has gratitude now. You can see it on his face, the joy that he gets from playing, because he knows what it's like to not be in this situation. It's different when you're maybe a rookie with the Chiefs or a second or third year guy. You're just expecting to be in this moment all the time. To me, the Eagles losing 2 years ago, being in that moment, having to overcome that loss, that defeat, and all these guys having a second chance, to me, that means a lot. And I think we saw it with the Bulls, even with Michael Jordan. This happens in a lot of sports where you're knocking on that window, on that door for so many years. It's like a necessity. You have to learn to lose in those big moments and to let go before you can win in those big moments. To me, from an intangible standpoint, I believe in God and I believe in that situation when it comes to the Eagles. I think that's going to be meaningful in how they approach this game and the poise that they demonstrate. Do you think that I'm on the right track, or am I a delusional Philadelphia Eagles fan?
I don't think you're wrong, because here's the thing. In being in the NFL for 35 years, I felt the agony of defeat and the thrill of victory. Had not 3 championship games, lost all 3. I know what it's like to not get to the Super Bowl in that last game for your conference. The Chiefs are going to be poised and prepared and ready to go, and they've been there. Some of the Philadelphia Eagles were there. Some of them haven't been. But for the ones that, like the Barkleys of the world, that have played, the A.J. Browns that have played a lot of games and never tasted that sweet victory, I think you're going to see them really hone it up and be ready to be at their best. And I disagree with Nate Tice, who said that he thinks the quarterback for Philly will make a mistake. I'm hoping not, because I'm hoping it's a clean game. And we'll see what style wins. Is it going to be that athletic finesse style of the Chiefs, taking what's there, taking what's given to you, or is it going to be that get out of my way style of the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going to punk you style?
My hope is that Carson Wentz enters the game and he gets smacked in the face. That's my hope.
This guy's bad.
That's my hope. All right. Something that's not going to happen in terms of getting smacked in the face, when you enjoy this great golf tournament that you have. You had a huge smile on your face when you're coming in here. We can't reveal everything that's going on. Right. So we're going to keep some things close to the vest. But tell us about this great event that you have going on, because guys like Steve Largent, Rod Woodson, my producer's favorite dude over there, a lot of good guys are going to be a part of this. Tell us what you got going on.
Well, we've done it in Seattle this will be our 5th year at the Clearwater Casino Resort. It's a celebrity golf tournament. And it's for charity. It's our only charity event for our foundation, the Mike Tice Foundation. It's our only charity event. We have 0 paid employees. My sisters come out, all 3 of them, and volunteer. My wife does our taxes. My accountant's on the board. We've given away the last 2 years over $160,000 to charity, 12 charities each year, 5 different states, really focusing on the Boys and Girls Club and really focusing on all youth activities and youth things like football teams, like Oakville School District past Olympia needed new bleachers. We buy them new bleachers.
Wow.
So these are the types of things we do. There's a type of and we got a lot of good folks coming, and we'll have a lot of good folks coming this year. And we try to bring in Hall of Famers for you. Jack Sikma comes every year. Wow. The great Jack Sikma of the NBA Supersonics.
Yeah.
So we try to bring in big names. We try to have a good time. We got a lot to eat, a lot to drink. Beautiful golf course. White Horse Golf Club is where we play. That's in Kingston, Washington. Look it up. I have a website. It's themiketicefoundation.com. And we're starting to update. We're starting to invite. And we got good news coming in today. We have a new title sponsor out of Seattle, big company out of Seattle. Unfortunately, I can't say the name, but they're our new title sponsor, and we're really fired up about that.
It's amazing stuff. Steve Largent, Rod Woodson, Jack Sikma. Who else?
Oh God, Steve Jordan from the Vikings, Brett Boone, great baseball player. Each year we have a different. We have Ron Gardenhire comes in every year with his wife Carol.
Wow.
So we have a lot of different people. We have a good core of guys that come every year, and then we try to change up some names every. Last year we had a new head coach for. Jed Fish for the University of Washington, so he was a big one. And we also had my old boss and Super Bowl winning coach Brian Billick, who we mentioned before. So we try to bring in big names. The sponsors want to play with the big name guys, and then we have some guys that brought me up, and I invite back every year guys, like Sam McCullum, the old wide receiver, and Sam Atkins, the old backup quarterback. People say, well, why are you bringing them? I'm bringing them because when I was a young player in 1981, they took me under their wing. Least I can do is invite them to my golf store.
Hey, I love that. And listen, we have to thank you for so much. I mean, you were responsible. Those Vikings teams were with Culpepper, Randy Moss. I mean, those teams were so much fun to watch, man. There was a great entertainment and just joy as a young kid getting to enjoy and learn football, watching those beautiful teams. One thing. Please do not invite Kellen Moore. If we lose the Super Bowl, don't invite him to the celebrity golf tournament. Okay.
I won't.
All right. Make sure you do that. Last things you want to mention? Anything else?
No, I'm really excited about some of the NFL hires. I think the best hire that anyone made was the Patriots in bringing Mike Vrabel back. I mean, he's won playoff games. He's been head coach of the year in the National Football League. He's a tough guy. He understands the New England fans, and I think that's a great hire. I also think the Raiders made the right decision at this point in their franchise. I think bringing in a veteran guy like Pete is going to be good for the program. It's going to be good to calm things down.
What is a successful tenure? What would be success in terms of hiring Pete Carroll? Is it winning a playoff game? Is it getting them just a grown-up adult? Like, what is the barometer, the measure?
Well, I would say the first year, try to fight for a winning record. And then he signed a 3-year deal, I believe. I think that third year you need to be playing the playoff game to win the playoff game. And I think that would be a good tenure. Then I guess you decide, do we want a 78-year-old head coach, or are we going to promote his son, who I guess is coming on board? Or are we promoting Chip Kelly? What are we doing?
Knowing the succession plan is key.
Well, I don't know what his succession plan is. I don't have Pete in my cell phone, so I don't reach out. But you know what the succession plan is at UNC, don't you?
Yeah, Steve Belichick.
Yeah, right. Son. Okay. So
coming from UW.
So anyway.
Exactly. All right. The one and only Mike Tice. It's always a pleasure to have you. You're my favorite guest. You're just a wealth of knowledge. You got a great personality. You could definitely motivate me to make a sandwich. Liam Cohen couldn't. I just want to say that.
You said that earlier on. Yeah, I got to go back and look at that interview. You got me intrigued.
The press conference. He does this Duval, but it's just like
he has flip-flops on and
he
drinks.
He might be,
and he drinks White Claws.
And he might be trading Pokemon cards, with the team as well. So not a great. It's not Mike Vrabel. Put it that way.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel's gonna do a great job.
All right, there you go. The great, the one, the only Mike Tice. Make sure you go to MikeTiceFoundation.com. Go up to Seattle and go check out that great event that you're doing so much great stuff for boys and girls clubs throughout the country. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you, man.